So hopefully you're finding that a lot of this information is kind of just a refresher from Algebra 2. If you've been away from math for a while or your math teacher wasn't that good, maybe you don't remember all of it, and that's okay. That's why we're spending this time to go through these things that you probably may have learned in Algebra 1. So when we have an equation and we've determined that it is a function, we use the notation, function notation, which is usually f of x, but it could be g of x or h of x, etc. So the letter doesn't matter. It's the parentheses, and the x doesn't have to be x. It might be t, or it might be s, or whatever your input variable is. So, but what's going on here is that this shorthand tells us that it's a function. So we don't really have to think about it, okay? So y and f of x, they're interchangeable. It's just, y is easier to write than f of x, but f of x tells us, is like more specific because it says, y could be, we could write x squared plus y squared equals 4. That's going to represent a circle with radius 2, right? And we could solve that for y and all, but by writing it as f of x equals whatever, that tells us it's a function. Okay, so a lot of times we'll write y equals f of x equals whatever. I'll just go with 4x squared plus 16. So these two are interchangeable, and they represent the output value or the dependent variable. X, usually, whatever variable is inside the parentheses, that is our input or our independent variable. So, function notation, this is just a shorthand way of saying, okay, we're going to let x equal 2 everywhere in the formula. So what I like to think about this, I prefer to think about this function, f of whatever, is the input over 2 minus the input. So whatever goes in the parentheses, you're going to drop that in the box. So we would see, so input over 2 minus the input, and we're going to put in input 2. So everywhere I got x, or my box, I'm going to put in 2. And this one turns out to not exist, right? Because we've got 2 over 0. This is does not exist. And GeoGebra will tell you, I think it's a question mark when that happens, if you try to evaluate something that's undefined. Okay. So if we do 16, we're going to say, okay, great, I've got my box, 2 minus my box, and I'm going to input 16 everywhere I have the x in my formula. So I've got 16 over negative 14. We can simplify that a little bit to negative 8/7. Easy enough. What about f of negative x? So there's not a number here, we're putting in a symbol, right? So it works the same way. This is why I like the boxes, right? Everywhere I've got my variable, my input variable, I'm just going to put a box. And whatever goes, whatever's here is going in the box. Negative x, we're going to simplify. 2 minus negative x, of course, would be plus x, not plus 2. My hand thinks it knows what it's doing. And there we go. And this approach can help you with fractions too. So we're going to do the box, 2 minus the box. All right. And we're going to switch back to red. So we've got negative 2/3, negative 2/3. So we do need to simplify this one. I'm going to do negative 2/3 over. So this is 2 plus 2/3. So that's going to be 6 plus 2 is 8/3. And remember, when you divide a fraction by a fraction, it's the same as multiplying by the reciprocal, which I didn't do. And so sometimes stuff will cancel, right? So we're going to get negative 2/8, which is negative 1/4. And there we go. So with GeoGebra, oops, we can go over there real quick and look at how that might be done. So here, all right, let's turn this stuff off. So you'll notice GeoGebra, if I type y equals, let's do x over 2 minus x, okay? And it's going to make the function over there on the right. But when I hit equals, it gave that function a name. It called it h, and it did that because I've already used f and I've already used g. And so now, if I want to know, hey, what is h of negative 2/3? It will go ahead and evaluate that for you. And you can, let's see what happens if we say h of 2. It's going to say, it doesn't give me a question mark, it's going to give me infinity. Sometimes it'll do a question mark. It depends on the nature of what you're trying to do there. So you can use GeoGebra to evaluate function notation, which is pretty nice. Okay, so we're at the 5-minute mark, a little bit over, so we're going to break and then go on in the next video.